Hello everyone, this is Iyad from Zero to Hero Photography, and in today's video I'm going to explain to you what I have learned about the exposure meter and the camera metering modes and how you can use them in your benefit and take amazing shots regardless of the lighting scene around your subject, whether it's too bright or too dark. I'll be demonstrating these shots outside, taking you to the Falcon Annual Festival in Qatar. But before that,
please hit the like button, subscribe, and activate the notification bell to get the latest of my videos. Stay tuned!
let me ask you a question. Have you ever wondered why your photo that you've taken looks slightly darker or maybe brighter than it should be? Well, I have learned that there are two things that affect the end result of your photo: the exposure meter and the camera metering modes. These two things apparently are essential to measure the exposure of the shot that you're taking. Let's start with the exposure meter. Have you ever seen the small meter in your camera screen or viewfinder that says 0 to 3 from the right side or 0 to -3 from the left side? Well, this is called the exposure meter. Basically, the light falls into the subject that you want to take a shot of and goes into the camera, and the exposure meter calculates the amount of it. It indicates, you can see the f-stop numbers to the right side and left side. The more the indicator goes to the right side, the more exposed the photo is. The more it goes to the left side, the more underexposed the photo is. Well, to change or to play around the exposure meter, you have f-stop numbers and they are divided into thirds, so you can change it slightly up to number 3 to each side. Let's see how we can control the exposure meter using the different shooting modes, and let's start with the manual shooting mode. In the manual shooting mode, the exposure meter allows you to read the photo before you take it, because you are the one who affects the 3 exposure triangle elements, so you're the one who changes them. The camera doesn't have any control over them. It only shows you how exposed the photo is through the exposure meter, and you get to change the settings to balance the exposure. And let's demonstrate now. I'm gonna take you outside. I've just arrived at this festival called Mermi Festival. It's an annual one that happens in the desert, and they have dogs racing called Saluki dogs and falcon hunting, where falcons hunts the pigeons, and the quickest falcon to catch its pigeon wins the competition. I found this buddy next to me, this falcon. Apparently they're covering their eyes just to keep them calm, because if they see any moving object, they get excited and they might be aggressive. They can get eager to hunt stuff, instinct. I'm gonna practice now some photo shooting on manual mode and see what the exposure meter tells me before I take the shot. As we said, the exposure meter tells me if the photo is overexposed or underexposed, or maybe balanced. I'm gonna try different settings on my camera and see what the exposure meter tells me. Let's take a look. As you can see here, the exposure meter is indicating to the far right with this arrow, telling me that the photo is overexposed, which means I need to reduce the exposure of my photo using the aperture or shutter speed. I set the ISO at 100, which is the lowest, so I can't reduce it anymore. I'm gonna try to find the right balance for this shot. So now I see that the shutter speed is very slow. I'm gonna reduce the speed of the shutter, but I see the shot is still exposed, and the exposure meter is telling me that the shot is still not balanced. As you can see now, I have reduced the shutter speed, I increased the shutter speed to 1000, so the photo became darker. I kept the aperture open because I want the Falcon to be prominent and slightly separate from the background, but my lens doesn't give me lower shutter aperture. I need lower shutter aperture to have a more separated background. But anyway, I feel like now the photo is balanced, and as you can see, the exposure meter is telling me that it's almost balanced, but this is good enough for me. I don't want it to be darker. Now I want the photo to be darker, so I increased the shutter speed to 4000, which is the max, and you can see the photo became slightly darker, and the meter is showing me that the exposure is slightly underexposed by 1 f-stop, but I want to have it darker, so I'm gonna close the lens by increasing the number of the aperture. As you can see now, I put the aperture number to 9, f9, and you can see that the photo is underexposed. As you saw now, we practiced photo shooting using the manual mode, where the exposure meter showed us if the photo overexposed or underexposed before taking the shots. We can change the exposure meter during taking the shot. It doesn't affect the camera. It's you that decide how the photo should be, playing around the settings. So the meter only helps us to see the stats of the photo.
Please hit the like button, subscribe, and activate the notification bell to get the latest of my videos.
And now, if I want to take some shots using the shooting modes, aperture priority mode, the exposure meter allows me to tell the camera how exposed I want the photo to be, whether to be more exposed or less exposed. If I want it to be more exposed, I need to increase the f-stops numbers. If I want it to be less exposed, I need to decrease the f-stops numbers. Let's practice and take some shots of the same of the dogs now, and see how the meter can control the exposure of the photo. Let's go. Alright, I'm gonna take some shots of this cute dog. Her name is Ferrari, or his name, I don't know, the gender. Yeah, actually this is Porsche, the other one is Ferrari. I'm gonna take some shots now on the aperture priority mode. Doesn't matter if I do it aperture priority mode or shutter speed priority mode, you can practice both. I'm just gonna demonstrate on one of them. So now my picture, let's see what it says. Okay, I can't use it with my camera on, so I need to switch off the video and take the shot and get back to you. I took now some shots of this Porsche, that's her name, and as you saw, when I wanted the picture to be overexposed, I changed the exposure meter, and immediately the camera made the shutter speed even slower to have more light into the camera. And when I tried to tell the camera that I want the photo darker, I reduced the f-stop to the end, almost to -3, and I put the numbers on the photos, and immediately the camera increased the shutter speed to make the photo darker. So you see how you can take some play around with the exposure using the exposure meter, which is nice actually, because you can see how the colors get affected on the camera. Sometimes they get washed out, or sometimes they become more prominent. Welcome back. I hope the little demonstration, but stay tuned because we're going to get back again to the second part of the video. Now that we have seen how to control the exposure meter on different shooting modes, let's dig into the camera metering modes. And before that,
please hit the like button, subscribe, and activate the notification bell to get the latest of my videos. Stay tuned.
Please hit the like button, subscribe, and activate the notification bell button to get the latest of my videos. Let's start with the camera metering modes.